I'm Tom Vassell.
And I'm Melody.
And this is Double Trouble.
Yay.
Today we're taking a look at Masmorra. And I have to say I was extremely excited for Masmorra when I first heard about it because it's in the world of Arcadia Quest. And Arcadia Quest for me is one of my favorite games. I don't know how much you...
It's okay.
Okay, well, she has poor taste sometimes. But Masmorra uses these little chibi figures. I know you like the miniatures, and you go through and you fight monsters. In this case, the monsters are dice, which saddens me because I thought dice at the Dice Tower were our friends. But in this game, apparently they're not. They're enemies. And it's kind of a dungeon crawl, but it's a dungeon crawl where you're like, oh, look at that guy. And then I go fight that guy, and you're not really on each other's team. Well, you can play a cooperative version. Well, I'll just show you. The goal of Masmorra is to get your experience points to a certain level, the first person to that level, and you're going to keep track of these. Each level is actually a different color, so this is the first, second, third, fourth, fifth, level 5. As you get different experience points, you mostly will get experience points for killing monsters, and you will level up at different points in time. You'll get less experience for killing basic monsters once you get to this level 3 and move on. You can also play a cooperative game in which the case isn't get to certain levels, it's to kill the main bad guy. Players are going to take a character and they're going to place them here. Each character has a character board, and as an aside, I should mention that each character in the game comes with a card for use in Arcadia Quest. So if you want to use these characters in Arcadia Quest, there's a card for them. But this is the card that they're going to be using here in this game. This card has a spot to put dice that you use on a turn. It has a spot for hit points here, and it has a special ability. Each character will have a special ability. Those aren't the only special abilities a character will have. Characters will also have the possibility for more special abilities. So for example, here's Greybark, and so at the beginning of the game, Greybark has this special ability here, and he'll start with these two cards like this. Whenever Greybark goes up a level, you can pick one of these cards and slide it up. You now have an extra special ability. You go up another level, you can slide that card up again, or you can slide this card up. So now you have three special abilities, and so on and so forth to get the different abilities. Now many of the abilities are converting dice, and dice is where this game is all about. In this game, it kind of has a Yahtzee style mechanism where players are going to be rolling dice, and once you're done rolling dice, you can decide to keep them or re-roll them a couple times. And when you take dice, you're going to then be using them and placing them here. Now, one of the dice that you'll be doing is movement. Movement is going to allow you to move 2 spaces for each movement. And movement is so important that each player has a token in their color. So each turn you can flip this over and you get 1 free movement. Now, at the beginning of the game, you really don't know where you're going to be. I mean, you start in this starting tile, but you're going to be moving around the board. And there's a pile of tiles here with 1s on it, and then there will be 2s underneath that when you get to the second level. And the top tile will be flipped over so you can see where you're moving to. When you move into a spot like this, you'll move your character there, and sometimes different events will happen, but usually you're going to spawn a creature. This one here will spawn a normal creature. Creature in this game are dice, this normal creature here. I'll spawn it. Now, what this creature here, it will show you the attack that the creature does. The little dots on the die show you how many experience you get for killing it, and then how much life that monster has. Now that stuff may not be as easy or simple to see, so these normal monsters, which are called minor monsters, each player has a card that tells you what they do. So the one that I just rolled there was a ghoul, and so you can see here at the start of a combat, he'll steal one of your movement dice if available. If not, he'll steal 1 movement symbol, maybe even the free one you have. You can also use potions as ranged attacks against this monster. Great. So now there's a monster. Now you want to kill monsters because they give experience points and because they're going to attack you anyway and they're going to do damage to you. Now, when you attack monsters, you can look at the different symbols that you roll. Now, each player can always do 1 damage to a monster with a sword. Bows are a little bit better than swords, possibly, because if you have enough bows, if you use only bows, you can kill a monster without it doing any damage to you. Otherwise, you can use a combination of bows and swords. So, for example, this would be 3 damage here but it's going to be melee combat, so the monsters are also going to be doing damage to me. However, a shield will block, for each shield you have, you can block 1 damage that you have used against you, and every character has a special thing where they can change 1 sword and 1 shield into 2 swords and 1 shields. So if this was my roll here, and I'm using this, I actually have 1, 2, 3, 4 for the extra sword and a shield. And it's possible that players have different things that they can do. For example, remember Greybark, if he has a special ability, he can put 1 sword on this card, and that changes to 2 swords and a shield. So there's all sorts of different things you can do. Greybark also can have a wolf companion that gives him an extra die to roll. And sometimes some characters have the magic. Magic can always be used. You can discard a magic to change another die to whatever you want, but magic can be used as attacks against some monsters. Some characters can use magic as attacks. Potions can be used. As you saw, the ghoul, you can use a potion as a ranged attack against it, but potions can also be used to heal you 1 life. And so that's basically the gist of the game. You're going to be rolling, and you're going to be discovering new tiles and moving around the board. Now, when you discover a tile, you'll turn over the top tile. If it's a trap tile, this comes out instantly, and you'll take a damage. A trap tile can be disabled to give you some experience points. You just have to put the dice on it that show exactly what that trap is, and then that trap is disabled, and you'll turn it over. Some of these tiles at the end of your turn, like this one here, are going to spawn new monsters at the end of your turn. You will move monsters a total of 2 points, and then you'll spawn new monsters in all the areas that have them. So I would roll a die and put 1 in each of those. Some tiles will spawn very specific monsters, like this one here spawns a spider. Also, you have -1 movement. Some tiles will have treasure coins placed on them. Players will be able to use coins to buy treasure cards, and we'll talk more about those in a bit. To get this treasure here, I would have to put a magic there. Of course, bad guys are going to show up on them. Sometimes negative things will happen when you turn over a tile. And sometimes, and there's like warp points and things that you can find, sometimes you will find, here's the stairs to level 2. Sometimes you will find a larger room, a medium room. That's what this one does. And when that happens, you'll be taking the first room from here and turning that over. And this will have possibly a lot of monsters. This has 3 minor monsters and a major monster there. And sometimes they'll even have a very specific monster. These monsters aren't dice, but instead these monsters come out as tokens, and you have to fight them. But these bigger rooms also have lots of treasure in them. Now, treasure in this game is kind of an odd duck. You can always buy treasure for 5 gold coins. Players will probably be collecting coins for that purpose. And treasure are cards that you can play. And there are 2 different things. Sometimes there's something that helps you. This gives you 2 bows. But sometimes they also mess with other opponents. A lot of them do that. So for example, here I can get rid of a monster from the dungeon. Here I can choose a straight line to connect the tiles in the dungeon to deal 1 wound to every hero in it. So I'm hitting every other hero. And there's lots of these cards. And in fact, because these cards mess with your opponent so much, there's a different set of them if you're playing the cooperative game. These alliance cards that do not mess with other opponents. They're mostly just cards that let you do good things. And if you want to play a less hateful game, I guess, you could play with those even if you're not playing the cooperative version. In the cooperative version, there are also evil cards. These cards will be turned over once each round and just do negative things to everybody. They're a real pain in the neck. And then finally, there's a level 2 that you can go to once you find those staircases, and then you'll be drawing from a level 2 tiles. And in these tiles, you also have more nasty traps. You will likely have major monsters show up, which are on orange dice and are just more difficult to deal with. And of course, bigger, nastier rooms, but also maybe some great treasure and things. So again, in the competitive game, whoever gets to 16 experience first is the winner. In the cooperative game, you need to beat the main big bad guy who comes on a giant tile that you have to find and defeat him. All right, first things first, what do you think of the components?
I like the components, and unlike you, I actually like the dice monsters.
Well, I haven't said I don't like them yet. You're stealing my thunder. Yeah, that's true. I don't know what it is. I don't like that the monsters are dice.
Or maybe you could like roll the die with shoulder.
They're not that easy to read though, okay? If you look at a die, we're always like, what monster is that? Oh yeah, come on. I mean, we were never like, it was.
That's the only for like the orphan goblins.
Okay, I don't know. Maybe my eyes are just not as good as yours, but I just thought that they were not as clear to see the difference between the dice. And there's just, I understand the usefulness of the die. It's like, ooh, I randomly throw a die on the table. But why not just have a monster die? You roll that, and I got a goblin, and I'll be like, I will put a goblin figure there. I guess I could do that. I got a lot of these monster figures in Arcadia Quest. But the artwork is fine. The miniatures for the heroes are good. I actually like how the tiles look. Did you like?
Yeah.
I thought the tiles look really cool.
Especially the medium rooms.
Yeah, the medium rooms really are neat, to the point where I was like, I can discover a medium room, but I'm not really healthy. I don't care. It looks so cool. What did you think about the fact that you're like fighting each other as you go through and messing with other people?
When we played, we didn't really attack each other. The way we attacked each other was like moving a monster into their spot if we didn't want to.
Well, you can also play cards to mess the other person up, but
True.
Each card can be used to mess someone else up or help you, and I usually feel like it's more fun to help yourself than to hurt somebody else.
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong, we like to go after each other, but you're not going after one it's hard to explain. In a multiplayer game, you're hitting the person in the lead, and it seems like it'd be much more fun to play your cards to give yourself more symbols. It's very satisfying to kill a spider. It's not as much fun if Melody's about to kill a spider and I'm like, oh, no you didn't, you got hit instead. I don't know how to explain it. I actually like the cooperative version of this a little bit better than the anti-version, although I have some problems with that too, and I like this game, okay? This game is fine for me. It's just that this game is not that interesting. The overall, there are some things of it that I really like. I love the leveling up, and I love the using the dice, right?
Yeah.
The moving the dice around is cool, and picking the dice for the different spots. I love that idea. I love the special abilities. The characters are very different. I like that. But in the end of the run, you're just wandering around a dungeon, opening rooms up and fighting the same old monsters, and you kind of just keep going around, and then finally someone wins. It just doesn't have kind of a good arc for me in it. So I like it, but it's just not something that I love about it. Where are you?
It was okay.
Yeah, but okay, well, what parts did you like and not like?
I thought it was fun, like opening treasure chests, because I had the rogue character, so I was always going around just unlocking treasure chests and going off on my own, trying to stay away from the group. And I thought that was fun, but like at the same time, like my dad said, it felt like you're just repeating the same thing over and over again. Like, okay, we go in this room, beat the monster. Next turn, go into this room, beat that monster. Then go in this room, oh, there's a treasure chest, that's different.
Yeah, and again, I like Dungeon Crawl's Descent. It's one of my favorite games. Arcadia Quest is not really the same as this. Arcadia Quest, you are just going out and fighting each other. And also Arcadia Quest is exploding dice and things this game does not. I like the Yahtzee style mechanism of this, but sometimes your turn is just not fun at all. You like roll a whole bunch of stuff you can't use.
Yeah.
You re-roll and still get a bunch of stuff you can't use, and you're kind of like, oh, I guess this turn I'm just going to get beat up.
Well, usually it's either magic or weapons.
Yeah, and again, if you have special abilities, really cool stuff you can do. And the game snowballs quickly. Once you start getting really special abilities and you're like, oh, I can walk around. And I do like that you get less experience for killing monsters once you get more powerful.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to kill those little monsters at that point. And some of the big monsters are hard. Like, oh, you can't use special abilities against this monster?
Oh, that one was really hard.
What do you do here? I mean, they're harder to kill.
Which is why you put them to someone else.
The game is also, if you play with 5 players, a little long between your turn to the next turn. So it actually sounds like we're saying negative things about the game, but my final rating of the game is probably a 6, because I did enjoy playing it. It's fun. It's just, I don't think it brings anything new to the table. I don't think this replaces anything in my collection. It's just kind of another generic dungeon crawl. Yeah, it has a cool mechanism of rolling dice and that the monsters themselves are dice, but that's not enough to draw me in and keep me hooked and occupied. What about you?
Yeah, I rated the same thing. My favorite, I wanted to say this, my favorite card in the game is the one that like you restore all your life. That one was fun, especially when I went in the medium room and like there was a big monster and I just got killed and I had the card. I just went back up.
Okay, well, yay.
It was just fun. I was like holding that card for the entire game. I was like, when am I going to die just so I can play this card?
So you would rate this game a 6 too?
Yeah.
All right.
It was okay. It just didn't feel original.
Yeah, I really wanted to like this. Now, one thing is like, oh, there's characters in here that I can use in Arcadia Quest. Yeah, but I don't want to take these characters out and stick them in Arcadia Quest and then have an incomplete game here. And I don't want to have to buy this game just so I have these extra characters for Arcadia Quest. So that part was like, I want to use them in Arcadia Quest, but I don't want to keep this game so I can. That always kind of puts me in a quandary. Maybe they'll sell the heroes separately later on. I don't know. So that's kind of a ho-hum review from us, I guess. Now, I mean, if we're playing it, I'm having a great time. A good time playing a game. It's just that later on, if you're like, hey, wasn't that a great game, Masmorra? I'm like, yeah. She can remember playing that card that brought her health up. I just don't have that many moments in the game. It was kind of like, yeah, I killed some stuff, I guess. Were they goblins, ghouls? I don't know. So that is...
Just finding a medium room is like the most excitement you get in the game.
Yeah. I mean, and finding stuff. But I think treasure cards would be more exciting if they were like actual treasure.
Oh, yeah.
Instead of being a special card. Like, ooh, you found the sword of Chavavama and the sword of Chamamama. Huh?
A mix of both.
Yeah, right. I mean, if action cards are cool, but I don't know. So anyway, that's Masmorra. I'm Tom Vassell.
And I'm Melody.
And this has been Double Trouble.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find other great shows at Dicetowernetwork.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can find great games for great prices. Cool stuff in stock. Check them out at CoolStuffInc.com.